Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Bhakti Namine Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Bhakti Namine Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Radha Kunj Bihari Radha Kunj Bihari Radhe Radha Kunj Bihari Radha Kunj Bihari Radhe Jaya Radha Kunj Bihari Radha Kunj Bihari Radhe Jaya Radha Kunj Bihari Radha Kunj Bihari Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Aladeva Mai Subhadra Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Aladeva Mai Subhadra Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Bala Gopal Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Bala Gopal Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Jai Hari Nam Sankirtana ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Koti Vaishnavada ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Bhagavad Gita please. Bhagavad Gita please. Mataji said.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Please speak, but
Checked it?
no, I haven't.
Checked it. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Rati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapanakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha Kripa sindhubhaivacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we recite every time. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. This is Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So it is by the mercy of Guru that we can open our eyes to knowledge. So last time we met, we discussed the 13th verse of chapter 3. And we said that devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. So there's the principal theme of this chapter is telling us to do what? What is the principal theme of this chapter? Yajna. And what is the meaning of yajna? Sacrifice. And what are we sacrificing? We're sacrificing our sense enjoyment. And who are we sacrificing to? Who is the beneficiary of all sacrifice?
The beginning.
Who receives all of our sacrifice?
The beginning.
Krishna is the recipient of all yajna. Now we say, wait a minute, there are so many yajnas we perform, but we don't call out the name of Krishna. Okay? So, we're going to see, as we get to the later part of this section of Bhagavad Gita, how Krishna is the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifice. He says, Bhoktaram yajna tapasam. He says, Bhoktaram yajna. Of all the yajna, I am the ultimate beneficiary. And we understand it like this. In a corporation, we work. We work for our boss. Right? But who is the benefit? The ultimate benefit of our work? Is it our boss? It's our boss's boss. Boss's boss. All the way up to the CEO, the owner. Right? So our work is indirectly benefiting, ultimately, Krishna. So all sacrifice, Krishna is guiding us to perform sacrifice for the benefit of Krishna. And what is the benefit for us when we perform this sacrifice?
Closer to Krishna.
Okay, closer to Krishna.
Material detachment.
Material detachment. And what is the benefit? That is the result, a wonderful result. Material detachment and closer to Krishna. And what happens when we
Going back to God.
go back to Godhead?
Purification.
Purification. Purification of? What are we purifying? The heart. Right? What is filled within the heart?
Anarthas.
Anarthas, impurities. What kind of impurities?
Materials.
Ego,
Material, lust, ego, pride,
anger,
anger, greed. Right? All these things are there, sitting within the heart. And when they sit within the heart, it leads us to not want to sacrifice. Is sacrificing the fruits of our labor very easy? Are we initially very willing to sacrifice the fruits of our work? It's difficult. And why don't we want to sacrifice? Why do we find it difficult to do yajna?
they don't know the process.
We don't what?
No, the process.
We don't know the process.
Fearing that we are losing the enjoyment.
Fearing we're going to lose something. Anybody wants to lose anything? So our conditioning is, I enjoy, I try to enjoy, I keep. But what is, based on our experience, the result of that process? Misery. Are we enjoying? Have we found enjoying by finding more wealth, by finding more fame, by finding more beauty, strength, more possessions, more cars, more homes, more jewels, more everything? Have we found happiness?
Temporarily, yes.
Temporarily, yes. And long term,
Misery.
misery. Every time. And not only us, every living entity. So Krishna is saying, you do yajna, you sacrifice, and then you'll find happiness. And Arjuna opened this chapter with the question, shall I work or shall I give up everything? And Krishna said, you do your work, but you do it in a detached manner. Meaning you do yajna. You do your duty, but you detach. And when we detach, we will purify. And ultimately we'll purify of the desires in that heart that make us want to be the enjoyer. Want to try to satisfy our senses. And when we do, then we'll find eternal peace and happiness. So Krishna in this chapter is teaching us the necessity, the requirement to do yajna. So last time we discussed
The whoever is providing it.
I'm not honoring whoever is providing it. Right? So someone is provisioning these foodstuffs. So if I don't offer back to someone who's providing, what am I doing in essence?
I'm a thief.
I'm a thief. I am a thief. And also, I am causing some harm even to the tree, the plant, right? So there is some sinful reaction. So how to become free from that sin? By offering. I have to offer to Krishna. Right? So let us see now, conclusively in the 14th and 15th verses, Krishna is going to establish the absolute need to do sacrifice. The absolute need to do sacrifice. So someone can read the 14th verse? Chapter 3.
Bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anna-sambhavah yajnad bhavati parjanyo yajna karma-samudbhavah. All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. Srila Baladeva Vidya Bhusana. a great commentator on the Bhagavad Gita, writes as follows. Ye indradi angatyat vasti tam yajnam sarveshwaram vishnum abhyacha tak chesam asnanti tena ta deha yatram sampatayanti te santa sarveshwarasya yajna purushasya bhakta sarva kilbisai anadi kala vibirdai atmanubhava pradipandakai nikila papai vimuchyante. The Supreme Lord, who is known as the Yajna Purusha or the personal beneficiary of all sacrifices, is the master of all the demigods who serve him as the different limbs of the body serve the whole. Demigods like Indra, Chandra and Varuna are appointed officers who manage material affairs, and the Vedas direct sacrifice to satisfy these demigods so that they may be pleased to supply air, light and water sufficiently to produce food grains. When Lord Krishna is worshipped, the demigods, who are different limbs of the Lord, are also automatically worshipped. Therefore, there is no separate need to worship the demigods. For this reason, the devotees of the Lord, who are in Krishna consciousness, offer food to Krishna and then eat, a process which nourishes the body spiritually. By such action, not only are past sinful activities or sinful reactions in the body vanquished, but the body becomes immunized to all contamination of material nature. When there is an epidemic disease, an antiseptic vaccine protects a person from the attack of such an epidemic. Similarly, food offered to Lord Vishnu and then taken by us makes us sufficiently resistant to material affection, and one who is accustomed to this practice is called a devotee of the Lord. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness who eats only food offered to Krishna can counteract all reactions of past material infections which are impediments to the progress of self-realization. On the other hand, one who doesn't do so continues to increase the volume of sinful actions, and this prepares the next body to resemble hogs and dogs to suffer the resultant reactions of all the sins. The material world is full of contaminations, and one who is immunized by accepting prasadam of the Lord, food offered to Vishnu, is saved from the attack, whereas one who doesn't do so becomes subjected to contamination. Food grains or vegetables are factually eatables. The human being eats different kinds of food grains, vegetables, fruits, etc. and the animals eat the refuse of the food grains and vegetables, grass, plants, etc. Human beings who are accustomed to eating meat and flesh must also depend on the production of vegetation in order to eat the animals. Therefore, ultimately, we have to depend on the production of the field and not on the production of big factories. The field production is due to the sufficient rain from the sky, and such rains are controlled by demigods like Indra, sun, moon, etc. and they are all servants of the Lord. The Lord can be satisfied by sacrifices. Therefore, one who cannot perform them will find himself in scarcity. That is the law of nature. Yajna, specifically the Sankirtana Yajna prescribed for this age, must therefore be performed to save us at least from scarcity of food supply.
So we'll just read the 15th verse, just the verse, which says, regulative activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. So if we read again, all living beings subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced from yajna, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So you see the link, right? From food grains to Krishna. So if we read these two verses, what is the absolute conviction or conclusion we must draw? Nothing is produced by us. And if nothing is produced by us, then how shall we use all the things around us?
We should offer to please Lord.
Show gratitude towards us.
Gratitude. We have all entered Mataji and Prabhuji's home. It is their home, right? Now if we come into their home and we use all their things, ignoring them, not paying attention to what they're asking. We use everything in the kitchen, their sofa, the deck, everything we're using. How long they'll let us stay? Very long? When we go into somebody's home, how do we use the things within their home?
With their permission.
As a guest.
As a guest. At their permission. With respect. With understanding whose it is. Right? And a loving host, when we enter their home, will we suffer? No. We'll enjoy more than the hosts. Right? That's how a good hosts. But that relationship must be reciprocal, meaning two-way. So we have entered this earthly planet. Whose home is it? It's Krishna's home. Who is providing all of the facilities? Krishna is providing. So how we are supposed to use all of the facilities? If Krishna is providing, is he saying you don't touch? That's what he's saying? Mataji and Prabhuji have invited us around. They're saying don't use my home? No. They're saying use it. Be comfortable. But our responsibility is to use it respectfully. So how we are supposed to use all the facilities of the world?
Permission. With the highest respect.
With highest respect. And understanding where it is all coming from. And so Krishna is telling us what we must do with everything. We must do yajna. Use everything in a sacrifice for the benefit of Krishna. And when one does so, who benefits? Krishna or us? Does Krishna need the production from this earthly planet for his happiness? Does he need it? He has full spiritual worlds, full of everything. What he can gain from the facilities of this world? Nothing. So who is benefiting by the performance of yajna? And this is the fundamental fact that we must understand. Because otherwise, this concept of yajna is troubling, right? Because as Mataji said earlier, we don't want to do yajna because we feel we're going to lose. But we only win when we do yajna. Prabhupada says in this purport very strongly, if we don't do yajna, we don't offer our foodstuffs to Krishna, what is the result? Sin.
We get sin.
Sin. Why it's a sin?
It is not ours.
It's not ours. Just like if I walk into your home and start taking all your stuff, you'll call the police. And what is the result of such stealing? Punishment, suffering. So Prabhupada says, if we go through life not performing yajna, what are we preparing our next body to be?
Hogs and dogs.
Hogs and dogs. Where the hog makes its living? Huh?
It's like
Yeah, but where it lives? In a nice clean place? In a very filthy place, full of stool and garbage, and that's where they find pleasure. So that is the law of nature. Okay? So, now let us conclusively understand something very clear. Our most fundamental need is what? BMWs? Rolex watches? What is our most fundamental need? Food. Bill Gates, the richest persons, need food? Poorest person needs food? Young person needs food? Old person needs food? Every living entity, even plants, trees, dogs, hogs, birds, reptiles, everyone subsists on food grains, right? Prabhupada says, even the meat eaters, right? Why? They said, no, I don't eat grains, I eat flesh. Are they also dependent on grains? How?
Animals eat waste food.
Animals eat the grains, which then create the food for such desiring person. So everybody is subsisting on food grains? We can agree? Okay. So how are food grains produced?
Yes.
By rains. We need rains, right? No, I just turn on the tap and pour on the fields. That's not rains. Is it rains? Where that water is coming from? Ultimately, we are subsisting on rains. Where do rains come from? Clouds.
Ocean.
Oceans?
Yeah, from ocean. Deep into the sea.
Deep in the ocean?
So technical.
And ultimately, who is arranging? The oceans can produce rains only if the sun is evaporating the water, leaving this salt behind. But then, if it evaporates and then falls back into the ocean, what is the value? Any value? So what moves the clouds over the lands? Wind. So at least two things are needed, sun and winds. Who is managing the sun and who is managing the wind? He is directly managing? Indra and? Vayu and Varuna. Varuna is the ocean, Vayu is the winds. Right? Surya Dev is managing the sun. Lord Indra is also, right? So we have these different parties, these different personalities who are serving, they're facilitating our existence. Right? And what pleases the different administrators so that they provide these different facilities, rain, sun, winds? Yajna. Without yajna, will they give? No. Only with yajna they'll give. Right? So where the yajnas come from? Not yet.
Prescribed duties.
From the prescribed duties. They say you must do these certain yajnas. Right? Where do prescribed duties come from? Google? From some authoritative source. Not someone's own mental concoction. Oh, let's perform this yajna. I'll make up some mantras, make up some processes, and something great will happen. Give me $100. No, it doesn't work like that. So where do prescribed duties come from? They come from Vedas. And also importantly, as a side note, what we are supposed to do doesn't come from here. Meaning our own ideas, our own mental concoctions. how to live a very fruitful life comes also from the scriptures. Because this being so impure, if we govern ourselves just by our own free will, we have the right to do so. It is our choice. But if we do, we'll have to suffer the consequences. So, prescribed duties come from the Vedas. Where do the Vedas come from? Lord. Krishna directly says, Vedanta krud veda eva chaham. Right? He says, I am the compiler of the Veda, the Vedanta. In the 15th chapter, he'll say, Vedaishya sarver aham eva vedyo. I am the source of all the Vedas. I am the compiler and I am its knower. And I am to be known by the Vedas. What is the ultimate conclusion of the all Vedic literatures? To know Krishna. Everything sums up into this single fact, to know Krishna. And who is saying that?
Krishna.
And what is his authority to say that? Make that statement? What is Krishna's authority to say that of all the Vedas I am to be known? Why he can say that?
He's the composer.
He wrote it. He is the author. The author of any book, if I write a book, I can say why I wrote this book. What is my goal and purpose of this book? You all may read it and maybe guess based on the contents what its purpose is. Right? But the author can establish without any imperfection, it can establish perfectly its purpose. And the purpose of the Vedas is very clear because the author himself has said, of all the Vedas, I am to be known. And then he establishes why. Because I am the compiler of the Vedanta. I am the knower of it. So, now we'll put all these different facts together and assemble it. Our most fundamental basic need is foodstuffs. We may be on an island with so many wonderful facilities. Beautiful palatial homes, nice beaches, perfect weather, servants, all kinds of wonderful toys, boats and cars and jewels and all that. But if we don't have one chapati to eat, or sorry, I'll say one plate of rice or one idli, will we be happy? Can we enjoy anything that is produced from the factory if we don't have something to fill this factory? Anything? So our most basic fundamental existence resides upon the mercy ultimately of who? Krishna. Is there any way to exist independent of Krishna? Anyway? Everything we do in this world, we are interacting with the mercy of Krishna. He's going to explain this in the 7th chapter very clearly. But if we don't see it, and we begin to try to utilize all the facilities for our own sense enjoyment, what is the result? Misery. Because I am like coming into someone's house and enjoying everything, not paying any attention to who is provisioning all the resources. Now, why Krishna made this material world? What is the fundamental purpose of this material world?
For us to enjoy.
Huh?
I want to
We want to
detach from
enjoy.
Krishna.
Attachment.
we had a desire to detach from Krishna. So why he manufactured this whole system, this comes into purport to the next verse. But what is the purpose of Krishna creating this material? What is the goal of this material world? And all the regulated systems and processes that exist here.
So even though I detach from Krishna, but through Vedas I need to learn and then go back to the Godhead.
Yes. So Krishna will say, Prabhupada will explain. He says here, but the Vedic directions are so made that one can satisfy one's perverted desires and then return to Godhead, having finished his so-called enjoyment. It is a chance for the conditioned souls to attain liberation. Therefore, the conditioned souls must try to follow the process of yajna by becoming Krishna conscious. Even those who have not followed the Vedic injunctions may adopt the principles of Krishna consciousness, and that will take the place of performance of Vedic yajnas or karmas. So, the Lord has manufactured this world in such a way that we may get some of this enjoyment we are trying to have, but ultimately purify from this desire so that we may go back home, back to Godhead. So this section of Bhagavad Gita, these few verses here, are speaking about how one must do yajna in the karma-kanda process. Karma-kanda process means we do some yajna for desire to enjoy ourselves. It is not bhakti. Bhakti means we are working to please Krishna. Karma-kanda process means we are working to please our senses. Right? So Krishna has created within the Vedas all kinds of yajnas. You do this yajna, you'll get a beautiful spouse. You do this yajna, you'll get a promotion in the office. You do this yajna, you'll live a long life. You do this yajna, you'll get a child. You do this yajna, you can live in the heavenly planets. And how many varieties of yajnas are there? 2 or 3? Hundreds of thousands. Why? Because we have so many varieties of desires. But what is the ultimate goal of all of these yajnas? To know Krishna. To come to the point of purifying of this desire to try to enjoy separate from Krishna. That is the goal of all of those yajnas. The goal of those yajnas is not to remain fixed in trying to acquire more material satisfaction. Why? Because it will yield some temporary happiness, but long-term suffering. And what is our ultimate goal? What do we really want?
Peace and happiness.
Eternal happiness. And where can eternal happiness be had? In Krishna consciousness. Is there any other place it can be found? Any other place? That is a fact. Our conviction, our faith in that fact is still building. But the fact is the fact. The only place we can find eternal peace and happiness is in Krishna consciousness. Because that is our eternal position. That is the nature of the soul, being part and parcel of Krishna. But the Lord has, out of His kindness, He has given these intermediate processes. These intermediate chances. Yes, okay, you try to satisfy your perverted desires. Why they are perverted desires? Because they are not desires that are natural to the spirit soul. They are contaminated. The spirit soul actually does not want to enjoy great wealth and opulences and beauty. All the spirit soul truly wants to enjoy is its relationship with Krishna. But because our glasses have become perverted, tinted, I'm seeing everything as red, but it is not red. I'm seeing everything through my perverted senses, my contaminated senses. So, we must start in doing yajna. And Krishna said, if you cannot do yajna to me, you're not prepared to do yajna to Krishna, then you can begin to do yajna to all the different personalities. But no, you must do yajna, because to obtain even a single grain of rice, yajna must be performed. So, doing yajna is not an activity only for certain folks. Do only certain types of people eat food grains? They all enjoy. Now, to do yajna or not is up to us. That is our free will to choose. But what is not our free will is the result, the consequence. So it is up to us to choose, and the laws of nature will reciprocate based on the laws of karma. So now we can come to the point that Prabhupada talks about, that who we should serve in our yajna. So Mataji says we can serve the demigods in our yajna. And so that is one option. What are our other options? Who can we serve in our yajna? We have to do yajna. That we have established. Right? So we can serve the demigods because they are providing the sun, the oceans, the winds, the rains, the air. 33 million demigods are providing all of the different facilities we are enjoying. So we can serve them. What are some of our other options? Are there other options? That's it.
We are serving Krishna indirectly because they are demigods are servants of Krishna.
So by serving the demigods, we are indirectly serving Krishna because the demigods are servants of Krishna. How did Srila Baladev Yadabhushan describe the position of the demigods? They are the different limbs of the body of Vishnu. What is the hand doing for me? It's serving me. What are the legs doing for me? Serving me. The head? The hand is not independently serving. It is serving the whole. So the devatas, being the limbs of Vishnu, they're directly serving Vishnu. So by serving the devatas, we are indirectly serving Vishnu. So what other choices do we have in our yajna?
Directly serving Lord.
We can directly serve the Lord. Right? We can directly serve Krishna. And so what is Krishna going to recommend for us? Sankirtana yajna. But who is he going to say directly we should serve?
Krishna, Vishnu, who is the master of all the devatas.
He says, you serve me directly. So we have to ask two questions. What is the first question we have when we say, oh, I shall serve Krishna directly or not? What is our one question? We have two questions. What?
So if I serve through demigod, do I get the full benefit?
Okay, so what is the cost-benefit analysis? Which has more benefit? Serving directly or serving through his agents? Right? Which is better? Better meaning which has the better result. And what is the second question we may ask?
Am I disappointing all the demigods?
Okay, so we'll put that within the benefit, cost benefit. If I do this, what are the repercussions or consequences? If I serve Krishna, will all the devatas be upset with me? That is a very good, important question. Right? So we'll put that within the cost-benefit analysis. But what is the second question about whether who I will do my yajna to? If I'm going to the office and I have a choice to serve my boss or serve the CEO, we know we'll always serve the CEO, right? But there's one question.
So, which will give us more happiness?
Yeah, which will give us the best benefit? That's the cost-benefit side.
If CEO likes us, automatically manager also will like us.
That is the answer to that question, which is if the CEO likes us, of course the manager will he has no choice. He has no choice. Right?
How to approach the CEO?
Are we qualified to approach? Right? One may argue, well, I'm not qualified to serve the CEO, so I'm serving intermediate. That's a very good assessment, being realistic. Am I qualified to serve Krishna? Am I qualified to serve the devatas? Right? We should do an analysis. So let's take the first part, cost-benefit analysis. What is the benefit of serving Krishna directly? Either way, we are serving Krishna, right? That we all agree?
Right.
So what is the benefit of serving Krishna directly?
We can go to him directly.
We can go to him. And what is the benefit of going to him?
No more.
Purifying
Eternal.
It's
Eternal.
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 Whatever comes from the service of Krishna is eternal. Right? Whatever yajna to Krishna, he said in the 41st verse, 2nd chapter, whatever you do in bhakti, there's no loss or diminution. Meaning is eternally ours. When we serve the different devatas, what is the duration of the result? Temporary. So one is eternal, one is temporary. Right? What is some of the other results of serving Krishna directly?
No time wasting.
Huh?
No time wasting.
No time wasting. It is efficient.
Yeah.
How is it efficient?
Because directly you are connected to.
So directly you're serving Krishna. Which means then, who are you pleasing also? How many of them? All of them. If I individually try to serve each, how long that will take?
millions of
Ever. Like a tree, if you try to water each and every mango on the tree, how you'll do it? Instead, we water the root, and the root will bring to all the mangoes. That is the intelligence. It is efficient. Eternal result, it is efficient. Any other considerations?
Can we say instead of temporary, Prabhu, can we say delayed result?
No? It's not delayed.
Will the developer's disappointed, like if you go manager directly, the supervisor thinks that this guy is not coming to me, he is going directly, he will create some problems, saying that he is headstrong, he is going like demigods will create some problems.
Yeah, so the question is, in the material world, in a corporation, if you go to your boss's boss, your boss will become upset, right? You went around me. You went above my head, we call it.
Yeah.
That's a no-no in corporate culture. But why that boss is upset?
Because of the ego.
Because of ego. The devatas are wonderful servants of Vishnu. They only want to see Vishnu happy. So if someone is making their master happy, they'll always become happy. They are not contaminated like us. Right? Now sometimes they also become influenced by the modes of nature, and they develop envy, they develop fear. Those things also develop. Right? So Krishna is ultimately going to say sarva dharma, all dharma, prityaja. Abandon it all. And do what? Mamekam sharanam vraja. You surrender unto me. Now is that Krishna speaking from a point of ego? You give up everyone, you serve me? He's speaking for our benefit. Because coming to Krishna consciousness is the ultimate. Anyways, the reason Krishna established these preliminary forms of worship, all these yajnas, is not so that we'll stay at that position of serving these yajnas, these different karma kanda processes. He created it as steps to bring one ultimately to bhakti. It is not that one is going this direction, one is going that direction. No, they are steps on a ladder. And actually the karma kanda process is not even on the ladder, it's on the floor. But the goal of the first step is to go to the second step, to the third step, ultimately to the top. Right? So anyways, we are going to end in bhakti. That is the ultimate purpose of why the author of these sacrifices has established them. The goal of third grade is not to stay in third grade. It is to progress. 1 second. But Krishna is saying, you do not have to go through the progressive stages. He's saying you can bypass it all and directly serve me. Because what is your qualification? Patram pushpam phalam toyam. To do pure bhakti, you just have to offer some water, fruit, flower, or leaf. Anyone is disqualified from doing that? He says, even if you are a dog eater, you may practice bhakti. Yajna to me. And so the ultimate sacrifice we are being guided to do is to do Krishna consciousness. And this Sankirtani Yajna is the most potent form of Yajna in this age. Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nashteva, 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 Gatirnyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. Then, chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names. No other way for deliverance. So this is the ultimate yajna we are being guided to do. And yajna must be done because we are all fully 100% dependent on the provisions of the Lord and His devotees. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. So when we are saying serving demigod is temporary, can we interpret that it is temporary, right? But it is a delayed one in sense that karma, whatever we have, is not cleansed. So we have to again take rebirth and then come again and again. But if you serve Lord, then our karma gets minimized and then we can go back to God.
Yeah, nice point. I forgot to talk a little bit about that. Prabhupada says that when one takes Krishna Prasad, which is directly serving Krishna, it says there are two benefits. What is the first benefit? Purified. Purified of all the sinful reactions. And what is the second benefit?
The body is nourished.
The body is nourished. But what is the second spiritual benefit?
We will develop
They will
bhakti.
take
The human birth.
We'll avoid, but Prabhupada says, we'll develop the vaccine, the protection from material contamination. So, one is giving us relief from past sinful reactions. That is one benefit. But the second benefit is protecting us from future allurements of the material desires. Because any future material desire is going to lead to suffering. So he compared it to when there's an epidemic disease, we need a vaccine. A vaccine doesn't cure us from the disease. What does a vaccine do? Protects us from future affliction. So by doing Krishna consciousness, by taking Krishna Prasadam, yes, we are purifying from past sinful reactions. But we are protecting from future temptations also. When we do different worships to the devatas, we're getting some material attachments. But that is increasing our material desires. You see the difference? It is increasing. It's like pouring fuel on the fire. The more money you get, the more you want. The more beauty you get, the more you want. The more fame. It's not like, oh, now I'm satisfied. That is the nature of material desires. So it leads to a difficult situation. So the temporary nature is we get some temporary enjoyment. But by Krishna consciousness, we are become protected. And that is why honoring Krishna Prasadam is so essential to our devotional process. The more we take Krishna Prasadam, the more we are vaccinating, the more we are protecting ourselves from the allurements of the material world. We cannot live in a bubble. But how we can create the bubble? By filling our body with the Lord's mercy. What is prasadam? Direct mercy of Krishna. Direct. He has eaten the foodstuffs. And now we are directly taking. Actually, it is explained in the scriptures that the Lord's saliva directly enters the foods that have been offered. Now sometimes due to our contaminated logic, we think, oh, but this is mercy of Krishna. And that is why it is so purifying. Millions of people have been purified by the power of prasadam. Okay. Any other comments, questions?
You already mentioned 2 points benefit in worshipping Krishna. One is purify our desires. I'm not remembering the second one, Prabhu.
Yeah. So the question is, there are 2 benefits to approaching Krishna. Krishna will explain in the 7th chapter that there are 4 types of person who approach Krishna with a desire. This arta arti, jagnasu, and jnani. One who is in need of money, one who is in distress, one who is wise, one who is curious. So Krishna says they are very pious. This is immediately before he's going to speak about those who worship the demigods, which he doesn't give such generous descriptions to. And he says that if you have desires, even material desires, money, you're in distress, still come to me. Why? Because there are 2 benefits. One, Krishna will give what is best for us. So we may have so many desires, but he'll give what is good for us. Just like a child has desires to eat chocolate, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But does mother give breakfast, lunch, and dinner? No. Why? It's not good for them. But the shopkeeper will give breakfast, lunch, and dinner if you give the money. They don't think what is good for the customer. Right? So it's compared like this. When we approach the devatas, they give like the shopkeeper based on a formula. If you do the yajna, they give, whether it's good for you or not. And we see this in the pastimes of Hiranyakashipu, in Ravana. They went and they worshipped for evil desires. Right? Vrakasura. Evil desires, but still they had to give. But Krishna, when we approach him, even with our material desires, he gives according to what is good for us. Just like a loving mother and father. And the second reason we go is when we approach Krishna even with our material desires, he helps us purify of those desires. Because we know material desires will lead to misery. But we can't get rid of them. They're stuck like gum on my hand. I can't get rid of them. How to get rid of them? And Krishna will help us get rid of them. He'll purify the heart. He'll elevate. My dear child, get rid of these broken pieces of glass. Take to diamonds. This material world is like broken pieces of glass. It looks kind of sometimes shiny, but all it does is give pain. And instead, take to the jewels of Krishna consciousness. So Krishna will help us in that process. It's very difficult on our own. So just like a loving mother and father gives according to what is good and also purify. My child, don't desire chocolate breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's not good for you. Let's try these things. Oh, that is what Krishna does to us. Because he has love for us. The shopkeeper doesn't have love for us. Shopkeeper is neutral. You have the money, I'll give. You don't, next customer. So that is the difference between going to Krishna and going to the different devotees. Yes.
I have two questions on this. So why Krishna gives what is good for us? Is it because he is the ultimate source and he knows the karma of individuals? That is why.
I'm sorry, say it again. Why?
Why Krishna gives what is good for us? Is it because that he knows the karma of individual people, ultimate source? That is why he is doing it.
So why Krishna is telling us what is good for us? Well, because he said, Arjuna, what is the relationship between Arjuna and Krishna? Friends. So what do friends do for each other?
Whatever is good.
They help each other.
They help each other.
And my friend has arrived. So what is, when you have a friendship, right? And your friend is in need, you help them, right? And you help them according to your capacity, your ability. Whatever you can do, you will help them. Now you may be limited in how much you can help them, right? Because we are limited. Now, who is our best friend? We have no better friend. Krishna is our ultimate friend. So Krishna is unlimited. So Krishna can give us the full and unlimited benefit. So he is giving the advice which can bring the greatest benefit. And why? Because he's our friend. He says, after he says, Bhoktaram yajna tapasam, which says, I am the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices. He says, Sarva loka maheshwaram, I am the source of all of the demigods and all of the planets. And then he says, Surdam sarva bhutanam, I am the well-wisher of every living entity, which means he wants the best for all of us. When we know these three things, he says, then you'll find peace. So he is giving Arjuna this knowledge, and he's giving all of this knowledge because he is our best friend. He wants the best for us, and so he is giving the best he has. And what he has complete knowledge. He has perfect solutions. I was giving this example on Thursday. We have a doctor with us. If you go and you are sick, doctor will give cure based on the best they know, right? Well, so when I go to a doctor and says, do this to cure, we still have some doubts. And what is our doubt? Does someone have a better cure, a better medicine for my sickness? Well, Krishna is the ultimate doctor. Why? Because he has the total formula. He knows every possible remedy. So when he prescribes a remedy, it is the most potent, most perfect remedy. Because he has full knowledge. A material doctor has limited knowledge. They do the best they can based on their ability. But Krishna has full ability, full knowledge. So when he gives a medicine, a prescription, a recommendation, an instruction, it is the most perfect, most potent, most absolute instruction. And his only goal in that instruction is to see us benefit. Because he is our friend. He is not looking for his own benefit. He has everything. He's Atma Rama. So when he says Sarva Dharmam Prityaja, He says, Man mana bhava mad bhakto manjini mam namaskuru. You become my devotee, you think of me, you offer your homages to me, you offer your obeisances to me. He is saying that because that is the most potent medicine he has to cure us of our disease of suffering. And he is doing it because he is our best friend. He says, Pratijane priyusime. Arjuna, I'm telling you this because you are my dear friend. And that is what friends do. They try to help. But Krishna, being our best friend and most powerful friend, can give us the ultimate solution. So that is why.
So when we say best friend, Prabhu, it means that based on the karma only he gives the results. Right?
No. Karma is enacted by the laws of nature. And he'll tell us in the middle section of Bhagavad Gita that the material nature is carrying out all the activities. Laws of karma is one of the laws of material nature. Action, reaction. That is all being happening by my material nature. But I am independent of that. But he is not. He is the director of it, but he is also not the direct administrator. But to his devotee, he gives special mercy. What special mercy? He says, I actually come and preserve what they have. I carry what they lack. So not based on the laws of karma. When one takes to Krishna consciousness, Krishna sets aside all karma. And just like mother will give child the best they have regardless of whether they've been behaving or not in the best. If there is some level of love. So Krishna in bhakti doesn't reciprocate based on karma.
Okay. But we have to reach that purity level now, Prabhu. When we say bhakti, I think we have to reach that purity level.
What purity is required to offer a glass of water? Does Krishna say anywhere in Bhagavad Gita, you must first purify to offer me a glass of water? He has said anywhere. He has said anywhere, you must first purify of all anarthas. You must be free of false ego, pride, envy, lust, greed. Then I will accept your water, your fruit, your flower or leaf. He has said, what is the only qualification we need?
Love.
Yo me bhaktya prayachati tad aham bhaktupartham ashnami prayatatmana. This patram pushpam phalam toyam, he'll accept. We may be the most fallen. And trust me, we are the most fallen. We're the most unqualified, at least speaking for myself only. Most unqualified. But because Krishna is so loving, he doesn't care. If there is love, he'll accept it. So it is not a question of qualification. It is not, oh, I'm not qualified to do Krishna consciousness, so I'll start at a preliminary stage. I'm not qualified for PhD, so I'll start in 3rd grade. That is material math. Spiritual math doesn't work that way. Because that's why Krishna says ultimately. He doesn't say sarva dharmam parityaja, you abandon everything after you have purified. Where it says? He says you abandon now. And he's not saying, oh Arjuna, because you have become my good friend, you have done so much, now you're ready. No. Bhakti is the purifying process. And it is the end goal. All the prayaschitta processes, that is to purify. Then to come to the next platform. But bhakti is purifying and the end activity. It is the 2-in-1 process. And no one is disqualified. And if we have doubt, you just look at all the living entities around us who have come from so many degraded positions and very short time have come to the platform of highest Krishna consciousness.
I have another question. Why demigods give boon? Because they are they emotional Why they have to give bone? Why?
Because that is the law of nature as Krishna has arranged. He has arranged. If someone does the sacrifice, he must give.
Irrespective of whatever the karma they have.
Whether it's good or bad for them. But then Krishna also chastises Brahma. You don't do this. You have to distract them. Yeah. But that is the way the system is arranged. The sacrifice is arranged as such. Because Krishna, remember, he is impartial. Does Krishna only rain on the atheists? I mean the spiritualists? No, he gives to all. You had a question?
Oh,
And then you ask.
it is like one point of time everyone has to go to the Supreme. That's the arrangement, right? So how does he choose who has to come then?
He doesn't choose. Your question is, how does Krishna choose who gets to go to him and who doesn't? And this is a very important misconception, particularly in India. People will preach, oh, you can serve Krishna, you cannot. You can enter this temple, you cannot. That is based on false ego. That is based on pride. Oh, I have been selected by Krishna to serve in this way. Really? Show me where you have been selected as such. Because you think about it from a very logical perspective. Every living entity is the child of Krishna. He says, Aham bija pradaha pita. I am the pita, seed-giving father of every living entity. Every living entity, I am the seed-giving father. So now let me ask you one question. Which righteous father would ever say, you may love me, my son, but you, my son, you cannot love me? Any loving father would ever do that? Any father would give one of his children an opportunity to progress and another he would suppress? Never. Even if one child has been acting so irresponsibly, a loving father, when the slightest inclination to repent and to again love is there, a loving father will accept. So to suggest that I have to be picked by Krishna to serve, no. Who has to pick? We have to pick.
How does it happen, Guru Prabhuji? Is it because of our previous good karmas or it is his mercy?
That's a nice question. Now, how we'll come to acquire the intelligence to learn to serve Krishna? That is our greatest fortune. We have no other fortune, actually. Our only fortune in this world is somehow, some way, we have become connected to Krishna through Guru Parampara. That is the only thing of value we have. Only thing of value. Because that is our key to going back home. And how it came? It came by the mercy of the devotees, by the mercy of Krishna. And some good sukriti we did, something good we did. Even unknowingly, this agna sukriti, this unknowingly we may have done some service. Some nice activity, something that had pleased Krishna or one of his devotees. And the devotees go even one step further. Krishna says, don't tell this message to those who are envious. The devotee will even go and tell to those who are envious with the hopes that they'll even lose the envy. And that is the ultimate compassion of the pure devotees. And Srila Prabhupada has given us this knowledge, enduring extraordinary difficulty, extraordinary sacrifice. I can say very comfortably, based on hearing from some prior acharyas, there has never been a more compassionate person in the world than Srila Prabhupada. Because driven by compassion to give all of us a chance to hear, he endured unthinkable circumstances. So it is by the mercy of Krishna, it is by the mercy of the devotees, that we have had the greatest of fortune. And it is up to us to decide, am I going to take that greatest of fortune and lock it up in the closet somewhere and look elsewhere? Or am I going to take that fortune and make it my life's truly valued possession? But remember, whether we value it or not, that fortune we have is eternally ours now. Whatever we do in Krishna consciousness is never lost. So make deposits in our bank account every day, every moment. Every other bank account is going to be lost. This one will not. Okay. You had a question?
Actually it's related to what Prabhuji asked. So Krishna has created like laws. If anyone tries to please demigods, and then they get like some boons. And we, as you already mentioned, that Krishna also chastises like Brahmaji to not give like some boons. But I have like heard that demigods never give boon of being like someone can not die at all.
Yeah.
So that is something I don't understand how that boon even like comes in, like if we are like soul, then
Well, because if I don't have knowledge I'm soul, then I want the body to be eternal. Right? But the devatas cannot give something that which they themselves don't have. They don't have eternal life. Demigods have birth and death. They have old age and disease. Oh yeah. The duration is the devatas is the span of one manu.
Including Brahma.
Yeah. Brahma lives 100 years. They're all jiva tattva. So they have birth, death in less degrees than we do. They live much longer periods. Krishna is going to explain in the 8th chapter. He says everything is a shashvatam, temporary. Even Lord Brahma is temporary.
so like we say, like I think you mentioned that in Swarga, if whatever we desire we get it. So say if someone would have desired that I don't get an old age, you won't get it, or is it like maybe
In Swarga, in spiritual, in Vaikuntha?
not in Vaikuntha. I
In a
think you said like Kamdhenu is like a cow who's in Indralok, and she fulfills all the
No, all our desires are ultimately only fulfilled in the spiritual world. All the kalpavrikshas, surabhi cows, that is only in the spiritual world. In the material world, we can get relative temporary satisfaction. You cannot get eternal. Nothing is eternal in the material world. Nothing. By law, everything by the force of time. It's kala rupa. All devouring force of time must come to an end. So your enjoyment in the heavenly planets will also end. Everything is eternal. Excuse me. Temporary. Temporary. An exact opposite is in the spiritual world. Everything is eternal and nothing is temporary. Those are laws. There's no deviation from them. But our spiritual activity, Krishna consciousness, is a spiritual activity within the realm of the material universe. So that is eternal. But our body is not eternal.
Here is a question from Sachin Mitta. Then why did Krishna create sacrifices to the different devatas in the Vedas? Why was that included in the Vedas?
Thank you, Prabhu, for your nice question. So, the reason that Krishna established these many sacrifices, and it's a very good question, is because he wanted to give as broad of an option for people to enter the processes of ultimately coming to bhakti. So not everyone may be ready to come to Krishna consciousness by their own desire. So he said that, okay, if you have material desires, at least you do yajna. And now I'll explain in a little bit of detail how this progressive stage happens. So Krishna designed this system in a way that you can enter in this full of material desires and how it will slowly bring you to Krishna consciousness. So this is how it works. You start by, you want some desire. So Krishna says, okay, you do this yajna. Well, yajna immediately implies that I am not in control of my own destiny. Because I have to sacrifice to someone else to get something. So one priest will come and say, if you do this sacrifice, you'll get a promotion in your job. Really? So I'll do it, and I get the promotion. That's a relatively easy yajna, so I'm willing to try it. Wow. Then another sacrifice. If you do this, you'll get second. Really? First time was just coincidence. Now, second time, it happened. Wow. I have some faith. My faith is building. Third yajna, fourth, my faith is building. Then, the priest will come, if you really want to enjoy, if you do these types of yajnas, in your next life, you can enjoy 1,000-year life, flying in celestial airplanes in beautiful gardens. Really? Now I have some faith from these prior yajnas. Okay. Now I begin to work for next life. As soon as I'm working for next life, I'm developing some faith in the soul. Otherwise, the body is staying here. That means something must go somewhere else. So I do some yajna, and I'm getting this enjoyment. But I'm getting this enjoyment, but in the back of my mind, what is my concern? It will end. So, now hopefully, one will then begin to inquire, you all are giving this, but it's ending. Is there any more thing that it can give eternal? It doesn't end. And where are you getting all these things? And the yajnas will continue. And ultimately that inquiry will lead to Krishna. To find eternal fruits and to find the source of everything, it will bring us to Krishna. So these progressive stages of yajna are meant that even one full with material desires can come. Krishna was so compassionate, so loving. He wanted to create any entry point. But what happens if we don't follow that progressive inquiry? We become stuck with all of our material desires. And that is why Krishna ultimately will tell you, give it all up and come straight to me. But the reason he provides these progressive stages is so that we can satisfy our desires, build our faith, and ultimately we're going to come to the source of everything. Krishna. So that is all.
Here is a question. Why does not everyone get purified to the same degree when eating Krishna Prasad? King Uttanada did. They have written Uttanada.
So, why not everyone gets purified to the same degree? So, the degree of our faith and surrender, Krishna reciprocates. Ye tamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham. He says, to the degree of our surrender, to that degree I reciprocate. So to the degree of our faith in honoring prasadam, that reciprocating purification occurs. Just like anything. What I get put into it, that I get back. So, based on my faith, two people eating the same prasadam in two plates, based on our faith in what I am honoring, that much purification will happen. Right? And that's why we see, sometimes people are chanting for many, many years and limited progress. Some will chant for 1-2 days and dramatic progress. It is based on their faith and ultimately their detachment from their material desires. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur explains that doing bhakti while remaining attached to our material desires is like rowing a boat while it's still tied to the shore. You're rowing and rowing and rowing, but you're not going anywhere. That's the wedding party experience. So if we're honoring Krishna Prasadam as a means to, so also in honoring Prasadam, we should be mindful. I want this, I don't want that. Now this is a elevated state. Initially take whatever you like. But as we purify, we should see all prasadam as mercy of Krishna. As mercy of Krishna. Now please don't take that to the extreme. I like this item, I'm not taking it. Please don't do that. Krishna wants us to enjoy. But the point of the matter is that maybe sometimes it's not quite the prasadam we want. We should not have less enthusiasm in honoring it. Our enthusiasm in honoring it should be understanding it is mercy. But please enjoy prasadam to the fullest. What you like. But the consciousness should not be. We should never turn an eye to prasadam. This is not good. Don't say that. Because we don't know what love went. Yes, the salt may be less, maybe more. This, all that may be true. But what Krishna took in that offering was the love. And the flip side is good also. It may be the most perfectly cooked item. But if the bhakti ingredient was not there, it doesn't have as much potency.
Shall we tell our wife salt is less, or we should eat some clearly prasadam? We have rights to say. Because it will be treated later differently. How to
I'm not entering that realm. But I'll say this. Actually, when we cook for Krishna, we should also try it. And our point of trying it is to know how I can make it better. That should be our mood. Not I am eating to satisfy my desire. While I'm cooking, my tongue is salivating. When I'll eat, when I'll... No. But after it, we should try it. Why? How I can make it better for Krishna. So if I have a loving relationship with someone and they have prepared something, yeah, you may provide feedback. Not so that I may enjoy or to chastise or criticize, but so that together we can see how we can please Krishna more. Our motive has to be clear. But too often when we criticize, oh, you screwed up, let me glorify that. You made a mistake. Our mood should be, oh, how we can enhance Krishna. I know some devotees, when something is offered to Krishna, and let's say it doesn't have salt, they'll not add salt. Why? Because Krishna enjoyed this way, I'll enjoy the same. Now again, that is an individual. Please don't take that to the extreme. Right?
Here is one question. How can I get a printed copy of Bhagavad Gita as it is, please?
Go to krishna.com, krishna.com, and you can get the Bhagavad Gita in virtually 70 languages, and they'll mail it to you, and you can get a printed copy. And I'm very glad you're asking for a printed copy, because there is access on Vedabase, which is very nice and convenient, but it should not replace the printed scripture. There's so much potency in holding the Bhagavad Gita and reading from it, so let it not replace our printed copy of the book. Yes, we can use it in moments of convenience, the electronic, but let it not be a replacement. Good question.
Can someone pray to demigod or Krishna for someone else? Material desire.
For material purposes?
Someone else's materialism.
Yeah, like demigods, like the boons, like you're asking this not for you but for someone else for some other reason. Can it even work like that?
certainly in Krishna consciousness again, we can pray for each other. Will you pray for me, Prabhu? Because if you do, it'll work. When a devotee prays for a devotee, Krishna certainly. When we pray for ourselves, but when devotees pray for each other, maximum result.
Non-devotees, Prabhu.
For Siksha
We
Guru,
pray for
pray.
non-devotees.
No, we pray for Guru.
We pray.
Definitely we will pray.
We pray that will happen. Now, we pray for all living entities. The Mahatma is praying not for his own salvation or her own salvation. He or she is praying for the deliverance of everyone. Every living entity. But if you have knowledge, don't ever pray for someone's material wounds. Why? All you're doing is fueling their suffering. You have knowledge. So you may say, yes, I prayed for you. But you're praying for them. Please come to Krishna. Maybe you cannot tell them. That's okay. You tell what they can digest, but your mood of worship should be clear. Right? So that they can benefit. If you love them, love means you want them to succeed. You want them to have benefit.
We can't ask anything, like I'm having it in my mind. I won't ask anything, but I'm shared with Krishna. Is it okay, like on a positive side, negative side? Is that okay, like we can share with him? Even that also we can't do.
Does your mother and father like when you share your heart with them?
Yeah, sharing.
Krishna loves when we share our heart with him. We express our feelings. That is so Krishna loves to when the residents of Vrindavan come running to Krishna, Krishna, save me, help me. Krishna enjoys. He should be our reservoir of shelter. So we share our heart. And we pray, we can have desires for Krishna. When we pray, we should have desires. Prabhupada said, we should be like a small child begging, crying for Krishna. But we should know what to desire. Not Krishna, help me love you. Purify my heart so I may better serve you. Help me overcome my laziness, my anarthas, this, that, and the other, so I can sincerely love you. That we should pray for. These are spirits. And Krishna enjoys that. He says, wow, my devotee is trying, my child is trying. Now let me help him. So we can ask from Krishna, but we should know what to ask. Ask something that has value. Don't go to a rich man and ask for a few grains of chipped rice. Go and ask something of value. Ask for pure devotional service. And reveal your heart to Krishna. Revealing our heart also makes us honest with ourselves.
Like Dhruv Maharaj felt that, and he asked for the kingdom, then he felt that he asked very less.
He was not in there. He felt embarrassed. How I could go to you, Krishna, and ask for a kingdom greater than my great-grandfather? Who would ask for such a foolish thing when you can give bhakti? He was embarrassed by his desires. We should also become embarrassed by our desires. And if we're not, we pray, Krishna, Krishna, please make me feel embarrassed by my desires, so I'll get rid of them. Okay? So we have to know what to ask. It's okay? So shall we chant and pray in this way? Not just chanting, but begging Krishna, please. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.